Welcome into another edition of D1 Extra. I'm Brian Fisher with D1 Ticker. Pleased to be joined by Sports Illustrated's Pat Forde. And Pat, quite a week in your neck of the woods down there in Louisville. The school president has gone to Penn State. Vince Tyre, the athletic director, has resigned after several board meetings and quite a lot of drama, potentially where he was even going to take the Florida State job. That seems to be off the table. But it has been a heck of a week in basically a part of the country that is no stranger to college athletics drama.
Yeah, this is a place where strange things have happened regularly for years now, probably 5 straight years of just crazy headlines in Louisville. But still, even by Louisville standards, this was a very, very strange week. If you go all the way back, Brian, to last week, when it looked like the news of the day on Friday was going to be that Louisville was retaining football coach Scott Satterfield. By the end of the day, the news was that Vince Tyre was engaged with Florida State for the athletic director job there. So you had those dual tracks going, and the Tyre thing just lingered and lingered and lingered for the next 5 days. And lo and behold, by the time we reach a resolution of that, the president has up and left. So another week in sunny Louisville, that's for sure.
I mean, it really was kind of a month where, essentially Scott Satterfield, the football coach's job, was maybe a little bit up in the air. I know a lot of fans maybe wanted to see a change there and wanted something to happen, whether the assistants going or some sort of changes within the football program, just given the season that they've had. But that kind of throws a lot of this into doubt and really throws the athletic department kind of in doubt. What is the future there in terms of moving forward? Obviously, you got to hire a school president. I would assume that would come before an athletic director search. But what's happening in the interim over these next 4 to 6 months?
Well, we haven't had an interim named yet for the athletic director position. That's for sure. The expectation is it would be Josh Hurd, well-respected deputy, but that hasn't happened yet. We'll see where it goes. I think with Neely Bendapudi not there, who was really not very enamored with anybody, it didn't seem like in the athletic structure that there's probably a greater chance that they do opt for continuity with Josh Hurd. But they've got some huge decisions on their hands in terms of who they want to lead the school, who they want to lead the department, what they want to do with Scott Satterfield. I think he's certainly deserving of a 4th year, but he could be heading into a make or break 4th year in 2022. And then you have the looming basketball investigation that has really been the mushroom cloud over the whole department. We'll see. We should finally have resolution for that in 2022. There could be major penalties. We could have a coaching change on that side of the athletic facilities. So there's just a whole lot going on there. Fortunately for Louisville, the non-football basketball, men's basketball structure is in great shape. I mean, the women's basketball program is really good. The baseball program is really good. Several other Olympic sports are excellent. The women's volleyball team is ranked number 1 and undefeated right now in the NCAA tournament. So there's a lot that's going right, but it tends to be obscured by the high-profile calamities that they've had going on.
Now, no stranger to calamities, like you're saying, it has been Florida State, and they've kind of gone through the ringer on their entire search. Probably ended up where everybody expected, with Michael Alford being named Florida State's new athletic director to replace David Coburn. What are you expecting out of him? He's obviously a familiar name, having been Central Michigan's AD. He's run the booster organization down there in Florida State. I know Vince Tyre was mentioned at the beginning of the week as possibly the name to watch there, but it ends up being a familiar one to Noles fans.
Yeah, boy, it's been really strange, I think, for them, too, this whole week, because Tyre did have an offer extended. Now, whether that offer was rescinded or whether Vince backed out, there's conflicting talk about that. But they do end up, as you said, with Alford, who is a familiar name, is familiar with everything there. That job, to me, you've got to be a builder, a rebuilder. You've got to provide all the things that football coaches say they need these days in terms of infrastructure, whether it's facilities or whether it's staffing. So you've got to be on top of those things. And that has not been Florida State's strong suit in recent years. So we'll see what he can do to kind of ramp up things there and what sort of support he has from the booster community. Theoretically, he would be a pretty popular guy with those people because he's been dealing with them. He at least knows that terrain. He's not walking in cold. The Vince Tyre thing to begin with just seemed odd because Vince was not even a career AD. He was a business guy who stepped in as an interim in Louisville, and everybody thought that that would be the only job he would ever had. And it turns out that probably will be the only job he's ever had in athletics. But why he even got on Florida State's radar and became a popular name down there remains very strange. So Florida State probably comes out of this in better footing, at least in terms of knowing what they're getting into at this point.
And it's funny because obviously a lot of attention being paid to Florida State this week, but it was Miami that was really making the big splash in luring Dan Radakovich down there to South Beach. And I'm curious what you think of that move. It seems like certainly well received in terms of his reputation, but I would imagine this is a big splash that Miami wanted and ultimately got in bringing Dan back home to Coral Gables there.
Yeah, getting him and Mario Cristobal, it's like they money whipped their way into a good situation. I think into a better position probably than they had been in. Cristobal's probably a better coach than Manny Diaz. He's also certainly very popular as a former player, and can absolutely fit in with all the nostalgia and the understanding of the area and all the things that Miami wants very badly to get back. Radakovich, as you said, super respected, been around the block, knows how to build high-level football programs, and should do well with the rest of the department as well. So, the way Miami went about it, I thought was terrible. I thought it was classless. I thought it was, they were incredibly unfair to Manny Diaz, hanging him out to dry for days before they secured Mario Cristobal and then got around to firing him. That was a really bad look. But as I said, they threw enough money at the problem, whether it's what they're paying Radakovich or whether it's what they're paying Cristobal, that they're probably in a better position going forward.
I mean, how much does this mean just for college football in general to have these resources being invested in a program like Miami that, let's face it has languished a little bit these last couple of years, not just in terms of facilities, but salaries, coaching investment, and really it seems like the U is getting back to taking football quite seriously from the university level on down.
Yeah, they are, and it's funny. I mean, I don't think Miami was ever on the cutting edge in terms of facilities. They just had all the players, and they got them and kept them and played an entertaining style and all that. But now in this day and age, you feel like that's not enough. Just to recruit your backyard and protect your backyard, you've got to have everything else to sell as well. And Miami has a lot of very motivated boosters with a lot of money who want to get the U back, and so they're going to do everything they need to do. The problem there is, you're handing them the keys to the kingdom. And while they may be well-meaning, they might also be incredibly impatient. So you're signing up for what they want to sign up for. And we saw how they treated Manny Diaz. If you're the next guy, guess what? If you're not winning, it doesn't matter if you're a former Hurricane. They're going to treat you the same way. So Mario Cristobal has to walk in eyes wide open. Dan Radakovich, who's coming in over Blake James, who was fired, has to walk in eyes wide open that there's people that are throwing around a lot of money and influence there. And just because they got the people they want now doesn't mean you're going to stay the people they want if the winds don't follow.
I mean, Radakovich has been a big part of Clemson's success under Dabo Swinney and building that program up to where it is consistently one of the not only elite programs in the ACC, but nationally in terms of recruiting operations and what they've built there in terms of facilities. I mean, how much do you expect him to kind of bring that blueprint, south, and certainly with Mario Cristobal as well, being at Alabama, being at Oregon the last couple of years, and what he's been able to do at those places. How much do you kind of see those blueprints being brought down to Coral Gables?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the expectation and the hope is that these are people that, yes, have a lot of familiarity from the inside on what a national championship program now looks like in the modern era and all the things that have to go along with it. And that, yes, they're there to bring them up to speed. So the plan, I'm sure, will be, hey, Dan, everything that you had at Clemson, let's replicate here or even make better. And Mario, everything that you needed, let us know, and we'll see if we can make it all come true. Now, it's not to say it's going to happen overnight, but I think if they're at least getting in the game in those areas, that gives them a chance to re-secure South Florida as the recruiting grounds that it was before, and get some of the other programs out of there. And if you're locking up the talent down there, you should be, a top 10 program every year if you're being coached well.
And it's a fascinating time in Clemson as well. Obviously Dabo Swinney, a three loss season, not exactly what they had expected, but nothing to sneeze about. And but he is replacing Brent Venables, who's off to Oklahoma, maybe replacing Tony Elliott as well as offensive coordinator. You would assume Grant Neff would provide a little bit of continuity and possibly get that AG chair full time. But what are your expectations going back to Clemson in terms of this a bit of a reboot there?
Yeah, big moment for Dabo Swinney, who's never lacked for self-confidence, but he's now, Brent Venables was his sidekick, and Dabo let Brent do his deal. I mean, that he was kind of his own, defensive fiefdom, and then, so he's got to make a replacement there, and then on the offensive side, they've had some little bit of staff turnover, and they've kind of come through that. They went Chad Morris, Jeff Scott, and Tony Elliott. And if they have to replace Elliott, they've got Brandon Streeter there. So they've got people in the pipeline. And Dabo really prizes kind of that continuity, I think. But we'll see, is he going to – he's maybe going to have to be a little less CEO and maybe a little more hands-on.
It's fascinating time in the ACC. I was just in Las Vegas at the SBJ Forum and heard Commissioner Phillips speak. Obviously, the ACC seems to be one of the teams, not just in the alliance, but one of the power conferences that are somewhat putting up a roadblock to college football playoff expansion. I'm curious, do a lot of these AD changes, does that change the calculus at all in terms of the ACC's positioning in terms of college football playoff expansion, or is this just going to be more of the same as we head into that January meeting in Indianapolis?
I think it's more of the same because you're changing guys within the conference. So, Florida State, they are actually, because they're just bringing, they're moving up now or moving over from Seminole boosters. Radakovich is changing within the conference. Graham Neff is moving up most likely from the deputy chair to the AD chair at Clemson. So I think, for the most part, Jim Phillips is still dealing with the same group and the same mindset out there. There's been a lot of, I guess, consternation about why the ACC has kind of stood where they've stood in terms of not being fully on board with a 12-team playoff. I still think it's for the best for the ACC to go ahead and be on board with a 12-team playoff, but Jim Phillips has made it relatively clear that they've still got some reservations and some stumbling blocks. Those will theoretically, presumably, be overcome eventually, but it's not happening easily. We've seen that. I mean, we should have probably had all this settled months ago, and as it is, we're straggling into 2022, still waiting for some closure on what the playoffs going to look like in the future.
Fascinating times in the ACC, especially as those musical chairs keep on spinning. Sports Illustrated's Pat Forde, thanks for joining us.
Hey, my pleasure, Brian. Thank you.